So here we are, Midlife and Thriving for March, and I am joined by two fabulous women, two of my favourite women, I have to say, Evie Kathrepti and Claudia Binder. Thank you both so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me, Yvonne. It's always good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a
Thank
pleasure.
you for
And
organizing the space.
oh my goodness, this is the thing, isn't it? Talking about organizing spaces, when we talk about community, is that not the very thing? And of course, this month we're focusing on community because I do absolutely see it as part of self-care, yet sometimes it's just seen as this other thing, and I feel like it's fundamental to our well-being. And having obviously created the article around this, I'm not going to go too much into all of that. I'm just going to kind of jump into the questions and see where they go, and feel happy to jump in and answer the question that really resonates with you. And if one doesn't, don't. That's all good. Right. So I'm going to start with the first question. And, many people can have really full lives. We know this. We probably are some of those people. Busy schedules, constant connection, and still experience a sense of loneliness. And as it says in the article, we have 43% of women over 45 report experiencing loneliness.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask, why do you think there is such a growing need for deeper, more meaningful community in today's world? Whoever would like to jump in
I,
first.
I can start if that's okay, because the first thing that comes to my mind is really Meta and Google and how the news about, I don't know if you heard the news already, but there is something being done now about having people who are young people especially, looking for connection, going into this social media cycle of destruction, and then
Mm,
realize it wasn't connection, it was actually an addiction to some feeling that they were looking for. And I think that people aren't missing connection. People miss belonging. People
mm,
miss to belong somewhere. People miss to feel safe. And this is why, even with this constant connection that we have, and most interactions, even this here now, is a connection where I can't give you a hug, I would, but where I can't give you a hug, and where I can't be close, and where I can't feel your energy
yes.
through my jumper. But that's what it comes down to, in my opinion. It comes
Mm,
down to safety and feeling a sense of belonging.
yeah. Nice. Evie.
But I think that there are a lot of things that disconnect us in this day and age, and for the women, the age group that you're talking about, these are the women that were in between, not having the phones and the internets and this and that, and now living in a society where everything is seemingly connected. And it is hard to balance this, especially if you're not very much in technology, or if you um, like you feel that the people around you are moving faster than you, or you can't be understood. There is the connection that you have with your children, the generational gap is becoming bigger and bigger. So there are a lot of things there, I think, that causes this loneliness. And to me, for this particular age group, it is that we don't know exactly where we sit with this technology anymore.
Mm,
Yeah, and also, meaningful connection. What is meaningful connection, and what is it that people are looking for
yeah.
in the context of meaningful, especially women? Because we are the ones who fix it all, right? We have our job, we have the family, we even make sure the windows are clean, and we make sure that the most often it is still like that.
Yeah.
But the importance of finding a meaningful group of people, a group of like-minded people, where again I come back to safety and to belonging, where I really know that when I go there, there's another woman or man, but let's focus on women today, especially because of the context. But women are lost. Like you say in your article, I love the article because you do everything you can, you fix everything you can, and then you go home and you still feel a deep sense of loneliness when you go to bed after you fixed everything for everybody. And if I have a place where I can go on a regular basis, it doesn't change my situation, it doesn't make me a different person. But when I have from time to time the opportunity to speak to somebody who actually really understands what I'm feeling, saying, talking, and what I'm all about, that is like fuel in the tank. That is like
Yes.
giving you the permission to thrive. That is what gives you an additional, that's a tool
Yes.
that
Yeah.
activates your senses. That's a tool that activates hormones, neurotransmitters that we need for belonging, whether it's in the silver box here or when we actually meet. But
In
yeah,
person.
that's
Yeah. And I
like-minded.
love that, Claudia, because that very point about, it is that replenishment, it is that restoration that we get from being in a meaningful community is self-care. That is it. It fills us up so that we can continue to go and do, but we can do it from a much better
Yeah,
place in a much better state.
yeah. And even
And
Okay.
in
it's
our
nice to be held for once, after you're holding everybody, I suppose. So,
Yes,
exactly.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question. So, not all groups create genuine connection. In your experience, what makes a community space feel truly nourishing, really supportive and impactful, rather than something that kind of stays at that surface level? You're in it, but there's not, but you're not really feeling it, but you're in it because I could get it.
well, I think that it goes back to what Claudia was saying earlier, connection. I think this is what is like, if you are in an environment where you feel connected, you feel safe, you feel trust, then it is easier to let your hair down, so to speak, and be vulnerable and talk and listen to stories and understand that you're not alone, and that's what makes the difference. I think we all at some point feel that whatever we're feeling is just us. There is nothing, and that by itself is disconnection, because like, who will understand what I am feeling? Who will understand that haven't really been, gone through what I have gone through or whatever? But when you are in an environment where you're listening to stories, and they might not be the exact same stories, but you can see the vulnerability, you can see the challenges, you can see how people are connecting with each other, and you feel trust, then that, I think that's what makes community. That's what, like, the women around the table in the old days, while they were knitting and sharing. That's what
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
me.
Yes. And
yeah.
it's the quality of presence
Mm.
that is also so important. It's you know I personally run a cohort, Body Wisdom 360, that's for leaders and teams. It's all about well-being and performance, and keeping burnout so far away that it can't even come close. And in my group, what I feel is that I have a cohort now where I have a variety of people, not from
Mm-hmm.
one company, but from different companies and all sorts of age groups, men and women. Women are actually always the ones who are more engaging in that community, which I also find very interesting. But what the results show is that these meaningful connections, they know that it's a small group. I believe small groups are providing more safety.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger the group, the more people you lose. And in my group, with all these different people who have never met each other before, after 6 weeks, they start talking to each other. They start
Yeah.
sharing WhatsApp messages and stuff like that. And what is the most powerful thing and what makes me so happy, they bring the stuff home to their families.
Yes.
So when I ask, do you do these exercises? Yes, I tried with my husband and I tried with my children. It really works. Yeah, it does work. And that gives me, that feeds me again, that puts petrol in my tank, and it gives me energy. And that's the sense of belonging again, where, okay,
Yeah.
I'm guiding all this, but I know I'm appreciated here. And when you have that feeling, you can give that feeling back. It's the mirror effect, right? And yeah, that's what this is about for me, for
Yeah.
especially for this group. And I believe that it is the same for you, Yvonne or Evie. That,
Yes.
yeah.
Definitely. And that's the thing, isn't it? That what I loved when you were speaking there was that if they're taking this information and these practices away and they're taking it home and they're embedding it in their family, I mean, how nourishing is that? It's not just about the self, it's the self and then what ripples out. Exactly that. What ripples out from that? It's just gorgeous. I love that.
And if you take something from a community, something that resonates, something that makes you feel good, because what is it about is that you activate thoughts and feelings which you have forgotten about because you'd never get the opportunity to feel it or to talk about it. So you have this like-minded group, and you can bring something home to your family or to your husband or to whoever and talk about it.
Yeah.
And what talking is, giving thoughts shape, and giving thoughts shape creates beautiful ripple effects all the way through
Yes.
through other communities. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for me, it's having just started a new community. So I've had communities before. Now, the community I've started now is for midlife women. That's who I work with. That's who I want to help replenish so that they can go and take all of their brilliance, their skills, their knowledge, their expertise, everything that's oozing from them out into the world, because our world needs that right now, without a shadow of a doubt. But in order for them to do that, they need to feel nourished. So for me, as I start thinking about community, it's like I want a community where they come and they can get the nourishment that they need. It's supportful, it's supportive, but they're not being asked to do more and more and more. It's like, actually, how can they do a little less, but really give themselves that time and energy so that they go away thinking, "Oh." Now, whether it's I've dumped some stuff there or whether I've taken something and I feel more nourished is by the by. But that for me is nourishment. That's gold.
Absolutely.
I
And
need
you
to
know,
say, yeah.
the other thing about that is that in communities like the ones you're describing, the beauty is in the members as well, and how they start taking it upon themselves to champion each other, to um, show up for each other, to really hold the space for each other. It's not just
Yeah.
about who creates the community. And I love that, because I think this is it's a sign that communities do work, and there is a lot of need for them.
Yes.
And I want to add that, you know, in the beginning, when you reach out to people, when you offer community, then there's a million reasons. No, that is in the middle of the day. I can't do this and I can't do that. And no, that doesn't work for me. So I know the fight to get people into this, people who believe I don't need this. It's another half an hour or hour
Yeah.
in my day that I have to take away from all the things I'm already doing. No, thank you very much. But once they're in and once the ripple effect has kicked off, they come back and doing less, like what you said before. And that means doing less, but doing actually not less, doing something different for just a short while that actually
Yes.
benefits me and makes me maybe go to bed feeling I can be proud of myself. I've done something great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, the doing less is doing less of the doing, like the stuff that we do, and actually understanding that this is more for me, more towards the being, coming back in, doing this work so that the work you put out or the things that you put out are coming from your truest, deepest self. And there is so much joy to be taken from operating from that space. So I'm going to move on to question 3. Right. At different stages of life or even different moments within the same life, people, I want to say, go through shifts in identity. We're constantly evolving, right? So priorities are different and maybe the direction. How can community support individuals as they navigate change and uncertainty?
What comes to mind? Ify, is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
I
Go for it.
hold me back. I always talk so much. But what, what comes to mind immediately is like an anchor. It's like, you know, staying put, rest, rejuvenate, pause for a moment, and let it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also the fact that you know that you can have discussions in communities. You know, you might find people that have gone through a
Yeah.
similar situation. You can ask for help in communities,
Yes.
especially when they are trusted communities. You feel that you don't have to do the thing alone. Um,
Mm.
and that you can potentially share what you cannot share with your immediate family, because sometimes change creates friction within your direct
Yeah.
family. So that is an important thing to have, to know that you can be held somewhere, heard, and potentially give or take some advice to or courage to move forward.
Yeah. And that is why it's so important, isn't it? When as we kind of talk about community, is finding the one that fits, finding the one that truly resonates, that place of safety, that place where you know that, well, things that are a bit messy right now and I don't really know, but going into a community that holds that for you and is not demanding something very different of you or from you.
Correct. It gives you stability without prescribing who you should be right now. Do you have this job? Do you have this? Do you blah, 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 blah? And Effie, you also said something super interesting. You said that change is causing friction
It can.
within a family. Yeah. It often does, because we all have our patterns, we all have our ego states, we all have our certain childhood programming and so on. But that also really goes for, in my corporate world, maybe even more painful because people wouldn't even sometimes speak about it. They just
Mm.
reject it, refuse it, and because it can show up as a weakness.
Oh yeah, there is a lot of stigma around whatever, and especially when you're talking about vulnerable states, I assume.
Which is
Correct.
the next question. So
Oh right, okay.
let me lead straight into that. It's as if you knew it was coming. So there is often this hesitation around vulnerability, without a shadow of a doubt. Many people feel they need to hold it together or they need to be seen to hold it together, especially in leadership, family, or professional roles in general. So, how can community spaces create that sense of safety where people feel it's okay for me to be honest? Gosh, it's okay for me to just let it go because actually I am so exhausted from having to hold this all together. How can community spaces create that?
It's my favorite subject.
Go for it, Claudia.
And
I
I
love listening to you
I
anyway.
have so many favorite subjects, sorry. But when I hear the word vulnerable, what comes to mind always, and I believe so much in visualization, I believe so much in metaphors. And when I hear vulnerability, the lobster comes to mind. You know the lobster? The lobster can grow about 100 years old. But every time the lobster grows a little bigger, so the lobster grows into its protective shell, and there is a certain point where he has to shed its shell because it becomes very painful because it doesn't expand. So this is what I often use in my coaching. When you are at the point where it's really painful, it's time to shed the
shell.
protection, the shell. And when your shell is removed from your body, you're vulnerable. And this is where you're in a state of anxiety. This is where you're in a state of high nervous system, sympathetic nervous system state. But this is also the space, and this is where community comes in. If I have no shell on for a while because I choose and decided to grow, I have my like-minded people, my friends, my colleagues, my partners, and they say, hey, it's okay. And when the shell grows back, you come always out much stronger, much more powerful, and able to grow, because that's what communities are about anyway. Growth and safety and being and pulling on one string that actually is beneficial for everybody, not only for the individual. So the lobster is my favorite metaphor in this context, and everybody understands it. And imagine all these little lobsters without shell in this big group, and the other lobsters with all these big fat shells there protecting them, and nice.
Yes. Yeah. It's great.
That's
Great
an
imagery.
amazing metaphor. Yeah, like
Yeah.
what a picture it gives. Yeah, for sure.
Evie,
Yeah.
anything to add?
No. That is strong enough.
We're sticking with the lobster. We're good with the lobster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
It's
think,
nice
and
to be.
I would add to that is that that because again that's this whole backstory of being vulnerable is weak, and if I'm really strong, why would I want to be vulnerable? And these are just phrases that have been put out there and that people are now living by. And actually, being vulnerable is necessary. Like you just said, Claudia, how do we grow if we're not going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable from time to time? It's not a state we have to be in 24/7, but we have to give ourselves the opportunity to be in it and to find, as you said, or to surround ourselves with people who will hold us when we're in it without judgment. Just hold us and nothing else. Yeah.
And before you move to the next question, just a one-liner. If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. And that supports that lobster metaphor very,
Yeah.
And can I also add one thing now that just came to mind is that usually when you are within your family environment, or we're talking about women mostly, so men like to fix things, and in this particular state you don't care about being fixed, you just want to be held, and communities, women communities, I think, can provide that
Yeah,
in that state.
absolutely. Yeah, no fixing required.
Yeah.
Just saying. Excellent. Okay, next question. Now, you both hold and facilitate community spaces in different ways. What have you witnessed when people begin to show up more authentically in these environments that you hold, both for the individual but also for the wider group?
I can tell you really quickly, I have quite a big community. So, and as Claudia said, the bigger the community, the more you lose on this vibe. But I find that when people starting showing up, even if they are like a few of them, then more people tend to embrace that and show up for themselves and for the community. And I think this is very, very important. It seems like you need the permission, or you need to see that one person starting the conversation, and then you are like sort of all gathering around to see what is being discussed, and how we can add to this. What is the value we can add? What value can we get from this? So again, it gives me that visual of women sitting in a circle and taking turns and bringing in wisdom in the center of that table. So yeah,
Nice.
that's how it works for my community.
I
Thank
think
you.
when someone shows up authentically within a certain community, so we already have the context, and then somebody shows up in this community, either the leader of the community or some a community member. When you show up with authenticity and people see that, they feel it. You don't, you can't, authenticity is something you can't fake, right? So if you see that, or if people see that, then they catch it. It's contagious.
Yeah.
And it gives, authenticity can and gives people strength. And
Yes.
when you are already authentic, and when you have a group of people who you feed with your authenticity, this is where mentoring comes in. This is where bringing up people, especially I'm thinking future of work now, and what's happening to our children in 20 years. But when they see that even during the toughest times, and we do have tough times at the moment, this group helped me to strive. This group helped me because the person who stood up in that group was authentic, who told me what is actually happening in the world and what is it that we get from certain news channels. Sorry, I have to quickly switch off my noise. So
No worries.
yeah, authenticity is strength
Love that.
for
Thank
the
you.
self and for the group. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I think there was that when you were saying that, it is that felt, and there was a crossover between what you said and what Evie said. And like for me, it's when somebody shows up in that way, it's almost like being a torch bearer. And if I can look at your screen, actually, Evie, and just say where it says permission to thrive, literally, because somebody has given themselves permission, then others feel like I can do it too. I can also give myself permission. But I don't have to, and I don't have to show up the same way that the other person did, but I can give myself permission to show up the way that is me. And I think that is so important, is that there is never in a community, someone shouldn't feel that, well, this is the way we do it, and everything has to be this way, and you have to use this language, and you have to. No, this is about giving people the space to show up as who they are and how they are. And I know this, like for me, this is so this so resonates with me right now with this new community I'm building, because I come as you are. Come as you are. Don't come as you used to be. Don't come with another performance cloak on. Just come as you are and know that you will be welcomed, and what you have to offer, whether it's now, in a month's time, in 3 months' time, in a year's time, will be welcomed at that point. Okay, moving on. Question 6, and our final question. So, for someone who recognizes they are feeling disconnected but does not know kind of where to begin, what first step would you encourage them to take towards finding or even creating meaningful community?
I would say, if that's okay to start again, I would say it is about the acknowledgement of the feeling that you have. If you feel disconnected, how does this show up? What is it can be, because it can have so many facets, and especially talking about subconscious programming and things like that. Most people I work with one-on-one, they don't know, they cannot name it. They cannot say, I feel disconnected, but they say, you know, I cannot make friends, or I find it very difficult to lead my team because I think they talk behind my back, or all these fears, tribal instincts, not being connected, tribal times, that means death, that means tiger, bear, schnoopsweg. So starting with honesty, starting with allowing yourself to say, I feel disconnected, and because I feel disconnected, I feel that the tiger and the bear are consistently running behind me. And that's really tough. That's really tough for people. Disconnection is a basic need. Connection is a basic need that we have. And when you don't know that you're disconnected, then you need to find somebody or a community where you hear how other people are talking about the subject, where you hear that other people call it disconnected, or I'm not belonging, or I find it difficult to do this and this and this with other people. So, okay, I'm disconnected. So what do I need to do? And then you can start reaching out to others. And then you can hold your hand out and say, would it be okay if you guide me for a moment until I find my path? Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. I think the question is, for me, is like, by itself, like quite, I won't say difficult. It is difficult because of the way that we see our clients showing up, and as Claudia says, we don't have the language, or they don't have the language, but we see it more and more, the disconnection. And to me, the first suggestion is, stay with the feeling, whatever that feeling is, and usually it's fear, because fear, and in my profession is like more, because they're like, we're looking about change and things that are happening, and they think that the disconnection, or the feeling of fear, comes from the imminent change. Not that. It's just that they cannot really place themselves in that projected new reality by themselves, or like with others, because they cannot really see it. They cannot see themselves there. And it is a big thing for a lot of women, especially in midlife. And my suggestion, like, stay with the fear, investigate where does this show up in your body, why you think it has started, when it has started, and then start and figuring out if you really are open to ask for help, because also we're not used to asking for help, especially women at this age,
Yeah.
because all our lives we have been the helpers. So you know, how the helper asks for help. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's almost like a trap. Once you're the helper, the doer, they're constantly on it, to then even have to acknowledge that now you have a need. You will, and you feel it, even if you cannot find the language for it. There's unsettledness. There's there's a discomfort. Certainly with a lot of the women I work with and who tend to come into the kinds of communities that I create, is I just feel, there's a sense of, I feel lost. I don't, and like I don't fit into anything, that sense of not fitting into something. So it's, well, where are you? So I think that thing that you were saying, Evie, then being able to say, where am I in my life right now? What is it that feels out of sorts? And if I can just sit with that, not have to try and do anything about it or fix it, because that's our kind of almost go to, how do I fix this? Sit with it, be with it, and then start to think, just allow yourself to feel what comes up as opposed to think your way out of or into something, and then start to, well, maybe it is that I need to have conversations or just be in a space where this is what other people are potentially experiencing,
Mm.
and start exploring. So for me, everything is explore. Try and go and test different places. I know last year I joined a community that on the outside, I thought, oh yeah, right up my street. Loved the title of it, loved the kind of energy. However, when I stepped into it, it was really noisy, and I thought, oh my gosh, no, this, nothing wrong with the community. It's just not what I actually needed, but I didn't know until I stepped into it. And so that's also allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to go and test something. Does this really resonate? Is this, and if it doesn't, any good community will happily allow you to step out of it again, right? You shouldn't be locked in. And so there is just, again, giving yourself permission to even do that.
Yeah, and you said something very important. It's the stepping in, knowing you can leave, so you don't lock yourself into another situation where you don't want to be. I think all the communities, the three of us, especially the three of us, are creating, is a space, and this is so important. This is a space where people can come, because why do they come? Because they come in the first place because they struggle with something. They're
Yes.
seeking something. They're looking for something, and and you can actually maybe sum it up by saying that most personal struggles are really just a lack of knowing, a lack of understanding, a lack of connection.
Mm.
And when that shell opens, or when that shell falls, and it falls within a community, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Powerful.
yeah, I could talk
Yeah.
about half an hour now about the results, but community is so important.
Yeah.
And it is
Definitely.
for me something I'm looking forward to every time I enter, like, or I have my discussion with you here in this little group. I'm looking forward to it. I know 1000% we are pulling on the same string. And
Yes.
I every time I leave with sunshine in my head, in my heart, in my body, and knowing there is these two women who really do something that makes the world a better place, and that's what we need.
Absolutely. And yes, we absolutely do. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation with both of you here, because I know that we have our own communities, and yet they are so interconnected in many ways, because the end vision, that goal that we have for it, the mission that we're on, is so interlocked. And and that's and, and this is all for the better of, the good of, and that is what speaks into your heart, basically. That's heart-centered community. But I'm not even going to go into that, because that's like a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
It would be a favorite subject of mine, but
Yeah. So, what I really want to do now is just thank you both. Thank you so much, Claudia and Evie, for showing up today, for having this conversation. I know we could probably talk all day and then sleep and come back and go again. But I don't think anyone wanted to listen to us, not all in one go anyway. So, I want to thank you both for being here, but I also want to leave a question for those who listen to this video, and just sit with it. Nothing to fix, no answer required in the comments, just to sit with it. And so the question is, how might our lives change if we treated community as essential nourishment, rather than something we fit in around everything else? Just want to plant that seed, because I know that, I think you said at the beginning, Claudia, that it's this other thing on the plate, and I've got to find another 30 minutes and all this stuff. How might our lives change, and the impact of that on the world around us, if we treated community as essential nourishment, rather than something we fit in around everything else? And on that note, thank you both so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Yvonne.
you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Claudia. Always
Yeah,
lovely to
Always
be
joy.
yeah,
in your
thank you.
presence, both of you.
Yes, I totally. I just agree with this. It's beautiful, and thank you for this prompt at the end, Yvonne. That's amazing. Lots of food for thought. And
Yes.
where should that go? Where should communities go? They should be in schools, in kindergartens, in offices, and they should be everywhere. And it should be part of it should be part of a curriculum, part of a job scope, part of it should be
Yeah,
really everywhere.
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, we are closing out. Hopefully you've enjoyed the article. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching this video. There will be details somewhere at the bottom of the article, how to connect with Claudia and Evie and myself, if you're interested in finding out about the community that we hold. And if something resonates, or if you have a question, then please reach out. That's what we're here for. Because, and I'm going to say this on behalf of the three of us, that we want to do our bit to make the world a better place, and better for the generations that are coming up behind us. I'm thinking of my children, my grandchildren. I want to know that we can do better than what the world is currently showing us we can do. We can do so much better. Um, and the best way to achieve that is in community, without a shadow of a doubt. So
Really agree, 100.
thank you so much.
Lots of love, and
Thank you.
speak to you soon.
Speak
Take care.
soon.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye.